Chevron 1, coded.
For my ally is the Force, and the powerful ally it is. Life creates it, makes it grow.
You failed your purpose. I am a Jedi, like my father before me.
Cry hammer, and let's set the tongues of war.
Chevron 2 is coded.
Conan, what is best in life? Crush your enemies, see them driven before you, to hear the lamentation of your women.
It's all in the reflexes.
Well, I'll also say that you're heavy into martial arts, Tai Chi, and all that killer stuff.
I suppose we have to register you as a lethal weapon.
Chevron 3 encoded.
And somebody ought to belt you in the mouth. But I won't. I won't. The hell I will.
Chevron 4 encoded.
Do you expect me to talk? No, Mr. Bond, I expect you to die.
Chevron 5 encoded.
You take the blue pill. The story ends. You wake up in your bed and believe whatever you want to. You take the red pill. You stay in Wonderland. And I show you how deep the rabbit hole goes.
Chevron 6 encoded.
Not for while you can, little boy.
Back off, man. I'm a scientist.
You shall not pass!
I thought I'd die fighting side by side with an ally.
What about side by side with a friend?
The day may come when the courage of men fails, when we forsake our friends and break all bonds of fellowship. But it is not this day.
Chevron 7 is locked.
Howdy, hail, and Merry Christmas! It's Saturday Night Drive-In, where we take a break from the week's nonsense and celebrate good movies. Have a good time, have some good discussions, some good debates. And as I just said, it's Christmas, so it's that time. It's time to do a Christmas movie, a real Christmas movie. Not last week where I fumbled the ball on that one. I gotta admit, I almost hit last week's intro because I hadn't deleted it yet.
Really?
It's right in the same spot. I gotta admit that, but I didn't, so no boomer points allotted. All right, as always, I'm joined by Jed, the Hollywood scholar. Jed, Merry Christmas, Jed.
Merry Christmas. It's great to be here, as always, to talk about the ultimate Christmas movie. And I've actually heard people argue against it being a Christmas movie, though. And
I'm gonna play devil's advocate on that tonight. I'm just because I want to have that discussion.
I feel like these people, the arguments that a lot of these people have, it's kind of hypocritical, especially when it comes to the other movies they consider Christmas movies.
That's why I want to do it. I want to do it just because I want to point out you can apply the same hypocritical argument they want to yell at me about Die Hard to this.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, no.
That's what I want to bring up. That's the only reason I want to talk about it.
If this is a Christmas movie, Die Hard's a Christmas movie. But I know someone in particular who thinks Home Alone is a Christmas movie, but Die Hard isn't, and It's a Wonderful Life isn't. But Home Alone is.
Home Alone is a Christmas movie. Die Hard is a Christmas movie, and this is a Christmas movie.
It's that simple.
Even though Christmas doesn't happen to the last 40 minutes of the movie, and it's not necessarily tied into Christmas, the finale is a miracle.
Absolutely.
And they're singing Christmas songs, and it's joy and goodwill and all that stuff. And the end of it is heavily themed in Christmas. But we'll get there.
We will get there. But this is absolutely my favorite Christmas movie. It's been a while since I saw it, so I actually just finished watching it. I was actually watching the finale while I was talking to Adam on the back end when I first joined in. It was that close. Close.
I finished it this morning, or when I woke up. I woke up very late today. I was watching it last night, then I stopped, and it had been a really long time since I had watched it too. Or I can be honest, I don't think I'd ever seen it from the beginning until this time. I'd always picked it up like maybe a third of the way through.
Really?
Yeah, it's because it was always on television. So it's always on TV, and it's just on, and you watch it, or you leave it on, or you see part of it. I've never actually had anybody sit me down and watch it. I can admit that. Full disclosure, because I don't lie to you people.
I'd be interested to know what you think, because I really love how it opens up and the young George bits. I think those are very strong. So I,
have
definitely
my
want to get
thoughts.
your new thoughts.
I'm
Absolutely.
not as negative as I was as I was maybe leading into it, as I said I was going to be, but I still have some critical thoughts of the movie as a whole.
Did you see the colored rendition that's available
No.
on Amazon Prime?
Black and white.
Black
I watched
and white.
this in black and white.
I watched the color edition for the first time today. It's really good. They did a great job doing the color restoration.
Yeah, they've gotten better at that over the years. One of the ones that, even though I don't own it, I will watch it. Although I don't, because I'm not on terrestrial television anymore. I wouldn't even see it. Philadelphia Story. They did a really good color restoration of the Philadelphia Story, but I still prefer the black and white. There's just something about it. I love black and white movies. I have no problem with it. I grew up watching it. I was shown cinema my entire life. It's not a foreign thing to me. It's very easy. And here's the thing: even black and white movies, I'm not bothered by the 4:3 aspect ratio at all. It's not. Unlike a modern movie, if it's shown in 4:3, I'll be going black and white 4:3. Not a problem. I have no problem whatsoever if it's like that.
It feels pretentious these days, honestly, if a movie's in 4:3 these days. Like back then, there was a good reason for it, and it's just the way it was. But now, people who do 4:3 is like, I'm going to do something artsy-fartsy. It's like a first-year film student who's like, I'm going to put it in black and white because it's cooler. Like, it's the exact same thing.
Shut up. Just shut up. Don't continue. Go learn to code. Just go learn to code now. And we'll save us the trouble of suffering your shit for the next 20 years. But we're not going to suffer shit tonight. This is a Hollywood, a Christmas, an iconic classic. It's a Wonderful Life. Jed, this was your choice this week, so why don't you set us up?
Well, the story of It's a Wonderful Life is just the story about a man who's very influential in his community, despite his best efforts. He doesn't want to be a hero to these people like he virtually is. He doesn't want to help save this town from Mr. Potter. He just wants to see the world. He's an idealist, but as we see from him as a very young child, he has immense empathy. To see the amount of empathy he has for his old the drugstore owner who ends up beating him.
Druggist, that's such a strange term, but there was no term as pharmacist back then.
Yeah. Well, just the empathy he had for that man just set up why he was going to make every decision he did.
The shit out of him.
It's bleeding. He cuffs. It's quite damaging, but he's still like, it's not your fault. Something horrible happened, and I'm sorry. I'm not going to tell anyone. Like he really understood from a very young age, and that's why he stayed in this town. But he never saw his impact.
There's a dichotomy. He was good on one end to the druggist. Then he made poor Mary eat coconut on her ice cream. That's wrong. That's wrong. He just piled that coconut on there, and she didn't want it. He's like, "What are you crazy? You're gonna eat coconut, woman?" He just gives her the coconut. That's wrong. That's evil. Coconut does not belong on ice cream.
I've never tried it, but
I don't like coconut. I don't like coconut, so I can't picture it on anything.
Mm.
You ever a Mounds bar or an Almond Joy? The coconut chocolate.
I've never had a whole lot of coconut before, so it's not something that I have experience enough with to say one way or another. But throughout the film, George doesn't realize how much impact he's had on this community, saving his father's company from bankruptcy, which allows poor people to buy their own homes until the end when he loses it all, or looks like he's about to lose it all, and he wished that he'd never been born. And we get into this really cool sci-fi fantasy element out of the blue where this angel comes down and he's like, all right, now you've never been born. See the world that would, or this town that would exist if you hadn't been around to help these people. And it's so frightening to him that he realizes how much impact he's had on everyone. And that's only solidified in the end when his company is saved from bankruptcy by everyone he helped throughout the movie coming and pitching in money to bail him out so that he doesn't get arrested. It's really just a beautiful film about empathy, and sometimes you don't even realize how much impact you have on someone until you take away that impact. And it's a lot of cool elements to it. The dialogue alone.
Well, here's the thing. One, again, this is another era. This is an era where effort was put in, and also this is the golden age of Hollywood. These are when
Absolutely.
stars were stars, actors and actresses were the real deal. They were talented. I'm going to be honest. Jimmy Stewart carries this whole movie.
Oh,
Without Jimmy
absolutely.
Stewart, this movie is not what it is. And I mean, Jimmy Stewart, America's goodwill ambassador, one of the greatest of all time. With that, he is this movie, and without him, he's the only reason I remain interested throughout the whole movie, because Jimmy Stewart is putting on a Jimmy Stewart performance where one minute he's gosh golly, and then he can flip that switch and be dramatic. I mean, that's why he could do all the romantic comedies for all those years of that. But then Alfred Hitchcock can say, listen, I want you to play something serious. And then he can play something serious. Rear Window, Vertigo. I mean, the Man Who Knew Too Much. He can do that. That's why Jimmy Stewart, one of the greatest of all time. And he can just pull it off. All right, let me ask you this. What is the one movie he played a villain in? Do you know this?
I don't. I can't say that I do.
The Thin Man. He is the villain in the first Thin Man movie.
Okay.
God help us, they're going to try to remake that. God help us, they are.
Oh, doesn't surprise me.
Yeah.
But yeah, he delivers an incredible performance. I've only seen a couple Jimmy Stewart movies. I think I saw one, a Western. He was in The Man Who Shot Liberty Valance, right?
I think so. It's been a long time since I saw it.
I've seen one Western with him in it, and the other one was Mr. Smith Goes to Washington. I love Mr. Smith Goes to Washington.
Oh, you know what we have to watch? We're going to have to watch Philadelphia Story. Cary Grant, Katharine Hepburn, Jimmy Stewart. That's one of my all-time favorite movies. I am
down.
That is a comfort movie for me. I love that movie so much. I watch it all the time.
He's just incredibly talented. Like you said, one of the scenes that stood out the most to me is one where he didn't have a whole lot of dialogue. At the end of the movie, or right before the Clarence shows up, he goes back to his house and his family's getting ready for Christmas, but he's lost everything and he's gonna be going to prison soon, most likely, and he just like sits down with it in that chair while they're all going on around him, and just the look on his face as the son like comes up and hugs him or whatever, and he's just like losing it, and it's all in the eyes, and it still comes across in black and white. He's emoting
everything, his entire body language. You go back to earlier in the beginning of that whole segment where he comes into Bailey Building and Loan, and the auditor is there. And at that point, they're all excited. His brother's coming home from the war. He's a hero. The whole town's going to celebrate it. He's not jealous at all of his brother. He's proud of his brother. He's got a pipe in his mouth. He's all clean. He's all tidy. And then we discover that his uncle has fucked everything up. And
how did they see that coming, man? He needed to wear strings on his fingers to know if something was going on a day of the week. You should not give that man money.
He's a functioning retard. That man was
and an alcoholic on top of that.
Yeah. We'll talk about that in a minute. So that whole scene you watch, this is again great direction, great character work, great acting as you slowly watch him go from looking normal, feeling normal, confident, happy, despite the fact that he says to the auditor, "Yeah, we're broke." Just said, "We're broke. The war has just ended." Because even though this movie's made right after the war. This is 1946, and we're jumping around here. One of the things I was thinking about while I was watching this is, wow, they're not spending a lot of time talking about the Great Depression, but then 5 minutes later, the brain catches up with the thought and realizes, dude, it's only 1946. They don't want to even talk about the Great Depression right now. They don't want to spend time thinking about it. They have to acknowledge it because this movie is taking place during the war, but they don't want to talk about it.
They do talk about it a little.
They touch on it. I mean, it's one of those cinematic.
That's one of the most important scenes of the movie is when the Great Depression.
No, that's the beginning. That's the crash.
Yeah,
that starts it. That's the crash. What I mean is that they kind of just gloss. They talk about. They just kind of montage through it. They don't spend.
They montage through the war, but I would disagree on the Great Depression because that's what his whole thing is he's fighting to help these people during the Great Depression. Like a lot of the struggle, a lot of the reason why he has to stay is because of the Great Depression. He's one of the only other people besides Potter who was able to stay on his feet, and he was able to. The entire plot of the movie is hinged upon the Great Depression.
I know that. I know that, but it's just they don't spend chunks of the scene. They don't talk about it. They mention it, talk about it, they talk about survival. Do you understand what I'm saying, though? They don't spend tons of time with it.
I can agree about the war. They barely mention the war.
Yeah, it's because they don't. What I'm trying to say is it's that movie making thing where something just happened, so they don't spend a lot of time on it because it's too soon to really talk about it. That's what I'm saying. I'm not saying they don't do it. I'm just saying they don't dig into it as they dug into so much other stuff in the movie. I mean, yeah, it is a pivotal point in it. Of course. I mean, they don't even mention that it's the stock market crash. You just have to understand that it's 1929 in that moment, and the stock market just crashed. Because I was very carefully watching it. Are they going to mention the crash? They don't actually mention it. You have to realize it's 46. Everybody would understand that's what happened.
And on top of that, that's not what the story's about.
No,
it's about the impact of these people. These people, how they reacted to the Great Depression, how the Great Depression affected them. And we see it from their perspective. They're not worried about what's going on in New York. They're worried about what's going on at their local loan office.
Yeah.
Where all the action takes place. So I think this movie is heavily influenced by the Great Depression. Talks about it constantly.
I didn't say not influenced. I said they just don't.
They don't name it. They don't name it.
That's what I'm saying, because it's still so fresh in the memory of the world that you don't really want to talk. You're going to talk about the instances, but you don't really want to dig into it because it's still fresh history and people kind of want to forget about it. They want to move on. We're heading into the post-war era and all that kind of stuff. That's just what I'm saying. It's kind of a cinematic thing they do. They'll talk about these things, but they don't dwell on it. But they're smart enough. Here's the thing. The movie is intelligent enough to treat its audience with some respect, saying, yes, you know this just happened. We don't need, it's what we criticize all day. The exposition of, hey, the stock market just crashed.
Yeah.
Oh, no, they don't need to do that. And that's, I'm complimenting the movie, goddammit. I'm giving the movie credit. Don't try to make me out to be the bad guy here.
I'm not trying to. I just disagree.
The movie is intelligent and it treats its audience with respect.
I can 100% agree with that.
Saying, here, this is the moment that changed the world, and it's an intelligent introspection of a small town dealing with it, where on one side you've got the essentially the broke bailing buildings and loan, and then you've got the rich miser who wants to take it all over. And we'll talk about Potter. I want to get to Potter because that's how you do a villain. That's how you do a villain. But we'll get to that. And you watch him, and again, this, as you said, this is the pivotal point where George comes through as who he is without, and it's a team effort because it's Mary that is the catalyst for that. Because it's the day of their wedding. They're heading off on their honeymoon. They're about to be frivolous with the $2,000 they have in pocket. Remember, this is 1946. That's a fortune. That's a fortune. He was living on $45 a week. Right as he learns his first son is about to be born. It's wow, okay. I can't live on that for a day. Actually, I can. But
it's very weird to think about the inflation of the situation with how much that $2,000 from his honeymoon carried all those people who were trying to withdraw. They got enough that they were all like $250 or whatever that guy wanted. That was a lot of money.
And he wanted it all, but then everybody else was reasonable. It's like, okay, I'll take this till we can survive the day.
Oh, one of my favorite moments of Jimmy Stewart's performance is, we don't even really see his face that well. It's kind of a peripheral shot. Is when that woman asked for $17.50.
Yeah.
And he just, like, his soul, like, you could feel like
you're working with me. You're working
with me.
Thank you. You understand, but that is the moment. It's an introspective. It's the small town thing, and I think that's one of the reasons that people can connect to this is because it's reality. When you hear a story of, we need this to get to the next day, and I want to help you, but you need to help me too. We're all helping each other here, and it's actual community, not like commie bullshit community, but an actual community where we are going to lean on each other, because that's how the Bailey's building and loan works. He moves the money around so they all help each other until they can all pay it off. That's how it works, and he takes his pittance from it to stay alive. And it is that, you're right. That is the pivotal moment, because that's the moment where it remains Bedford Falls.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, again, the movie, there's a lot of setup and payoff in all this. I mean, we love setup and payoff right now. We always talk about it. Little things like from the banister hub that always keeps falling off. He gets annoyed at it. But then at the very end, the fact that it pops off, he loves that it just popped off because he's back in his reality. They have all these little things throughout the whole thing. You realize that that's the moment where, in the reality where he doesn't exist, that's when Potter completely takes over and changed it to Pottersville, and instead of Bedford Falls, and turns it into one giant speakeasy. So is that your favorite scene then? Would you say that's your favorite scene in the whole movie?
There's a lot to compliment in this movie. Like growing up, my ideas of romance were affected by this film with the way he talks about, I'm gonna lasso the moon for you. Like that one was one that hit me really hard as a young kid and drove me towards, rather
yet
archaic senses of chivalry.
Yet he was also willing to leave her naked in a bush.
Oh yeah, he's still gonna have fun with her, but he was still a gentleman. And so there's just so much going on in this movie. It's a rom-com, it's a sci-fi film, it's a fantasy film, it's a heartwarming Christmas family drama.
Make your case for that. Sci-fi fantasy film. Make your case for that, because that's the first time I've ever heard it referred to as this.
I mean, just fundamentally, it was at this time there wasn't a whole lot of sci-fi, but how common do we see time travel? How often do we see alternate dimensions? How often do we see alternate histories? Pretty much every single time we see any of those elements, they're in a sci-fi film or a fantasy film. And so it's just using that framework. Like the film itself isn't necessarily fantasy or sci-fi, but it uses the framework and the tools of a fantasy film to make its dramatic point at the end with the Clarence bit. Yes, they're using religion, they're using angels, but alternate realities are 100% sci-fi related. Science fiction, we see those every day in other science fiction properties. How many sci-fi shows do we know who have done the It's a Wonderful Life thing? Star Trek's done it. So many different things have done. Hey, what would the world look like if I weren't in it? Pretty much every time, it's a sci-fi or fantasy product. Like, it's influenced a lot in that genre just because it opened up a lot of people's ideas, because I've never seen a film of this era that is so ingrained with those elements, at least near the end of the film. Like, I've never seen a time travel movie from the 40s. I've never seen an alternate history.
I wouldn't say this is time travel.
Alternate history. We'll go with alternate history.
It's an alternate reality where...
alternate
it's
reality.
That same moment in time. It's that exact same moment in time.
So, alternate reality, that's a better term for it. But, yes, the film as a whole isn't a sci-fi film.
The third act.
The third act.
Okay.
Yes, the third act, and it just created a lot of interesting things.
Yeah, all right. Ariel in the chat brings up Christmas Carol is time travel. Yes,
that's a great reference as well. So yeah, there are other ones as well.
Christmas Carol is supernatural. That's supernatural tale.
No, it would still fall into fantasy.
Well, yeah, but that's the subgenre I would put it in. I would put it in that, and I need to watch that this year. I just got my copy of the Patrick Stewart Christmas Carol this year. I finally picked that up. I'm gonna watch that next week. That's my favorite one.
But it's more, at the time they would never classify it as a sci-fi film or a fantasy film. I just think it's had more impact on the sci-fi genre going forward than it did in a lot of other genres. Because, like I said, pretty much every sci-fi show I've ever seen has done an It's a Wonderful Life parody episode where they do a what if alternate history.
So this part that I saw in the chat here just now. I think it would do a disservice for us if we didn't mention how the religious overtones of this movie.
Oh, absolutely. It's not even an overture. It's
you know what I mean.
Fundamental.
You know what I mean.
Yeah. It's fundamental. I mean, the first characters that speak in the film, I believe, are angels, and they're all praying at the beginning. What's the bucket? George prays at his moment of potential Minecrafting himself. So yeah, it's not subtle about its religious
it isn't
themes, and it works 100% for it. It's necessary.
I think Clarence is a little goofy. Because I mean, right? He's introduced as the retard of the Angels, right? It's like, oh, this guy, yeah, he can't quite get it. He's special. He's the special case, but we're gonna give him another shot. It's his turn on the list. But but
I
yeah,
mean, he is the angel that George needed, so it worked out.
I guess. But I listen. I am not super religious. I mean,
Neither am I.
Even though I'm wearing the hat, I'm Jewish, but I'm not Orthodox. I'm not super religious. I just try to I just try to follow the 10 Commandments. That's the best I do in life. But I don't discount it. As a younger man, I was very critical because it didn't quite click with me. I didn't relate to it. But as I got older and I understood, wait a minute, there's nothing wrong with faith.
Yeah.
There's nothing wrong with it at all. And for some people, it's an important facet of how they interact with the world. And it doesn't hurt me. And all it does is provide strength and foundation for people. And when you show a movie like this, that is, it's very rare that we get this in the modern day, where they are showing a respect not only to faith, but that faith can pay off. Not only, here's the thing too. Yes, is Clarence the active faith taking a role in keeping George from Minecrafting himself? Yes. But then again, it's there. And here's where we're going to put the argument, because we're going to talk about this. We already mentioned, we're talking about it, where this is a Christmas movie, a holiday movie, because faith and goodwill towards men.
Mm-hmm.
George puts his faith in God, but also turns out that his life, which is a wonderful life, because he unknowingly put his faith in other people, and that he didn't know, they put their faith in him, that it created this bond.
Mm-hmm.
But it's the complete unit of faith, spiritual faith, and faith in your friends and your family and the people that you work and live with all year round. And that, as you said, this is a fundamental theme of this movie. And 100%. You take that away, and the movie is hollow, which shows you that it's something that it clearly gets across. And I got to tell you, again, in my cold black little heart, at the very end of the movie, that movie where everybody's bringing the money in, I'm smiling. Like that's the scene that saves the movie overall for me.
Really?
Because I'll be honest, I'm kind of bored most of it.
Oh,
again,
man.
Except for Jimmy Stewart's performance keeps me interested, and I'm entertained by Jimmy Stewart. But certain scenes, certain moments, at times I feel it drags on. But Jimmy Stewart keeps me there because he's just giving one of the performances of his life. Because this is, again, an iconic classic that people come back to all the time. But that final moment, that last 15, 20 minutes where he comes back in and realizes, I'm back in my reality. It's Christmas and Merry Christmas, running around. I'm happy to be here. And yes, I screwed up your tree. I hit my car. My crappy car is broken again. And I ran into the thing and everything's terrible, but it doesn't matter. I'm going to jail. Merry Christmas. I'm going to jail. It's great. The exuberance, the spirit of it all, the holiday spirit, it infuses that moment, and therefore it infuses me. And that's where the movie captures me. And that's where I feel the power of this movie in its conclusion. Said my part on that.
That is a very strong aspect of the film. Definitely one of the strongest ones. I am invested through the entire thing. I pretty much have to smile throughout the duration of this film. And I love all the performances except for maybe that rich kid that tries to get him into the soy plastic.
Yeah,
that guy. I hate that too.
I love my classics, but goddamn, classic movies can be so goddamn corny and cheesy sometimes.
Yeah, that aspect of it I'm not a huge fan of, but pretty much everything else. Mary, I love Mary's bit, the little aspects of comedy, like when the pool opens at the high school dance floor, which none of those people look like high schoolers, and Jimmy Stewart just starts dancing in the water. He's like, well, screw it.
And then everybody jumps in. It's like, hey,
yeah,
it's
and the old guy even does it, but it's clearly not actual. There's some weird moments of old technologies that I was able to see this time, like in Porter's office. I don't know if you noticed that you can see Porter's name on the door, right?
And he has a portrait of himself in the corner.
Well, more on the door, you can see his name, but it's reversed, supposedly for the people on the other side, the outside of his office.
Yeah.
They put that on the inside of the door. They put the decals on the inside of the glass, inside the office, so the camera could see it, and just had it reversed. There's no way you could read that from the other side. So there's little things like that I enjoy that are like, oh yeah, it aged, but it's every aspect of the film I have to smile during.
Well, it's a listen. Yeah, again, this is just my overall feeling of it, and why I say it's not one of my favorites as Chris movie, but the power of Jimmy Stewart carries it. And let's just, I love watching George's progression because one of the most interesting aspects of the movie to me is how oblivious he is, which is why he has to go through his alternate reality experience. He is so oblivious to the fact that he's essentially the mayor. He's the unvoted mayor of town.
Yeah.
And everybody loves him, but he doesn't realize everybody loves him. He doesn't realize,
not till the end.
He doesn't realize what the treasure that he has with a family and a drafty old house that was built with love. Isn't that? And that's what hits me, because listen, my family right now consists of one person, my mom. I watch this, and that's one of the things that does hit home for me with this movie. I want nothing more than what he has in life. But I've made my mistakes in life. Just like George thought he made mistakes, but in fact, he was doing everything right, in my opinion. He was staying in one place. He didn't waste his time with college. Boy, that was a waste of time. He put down roots. He married a woman that loved him since they were little, and he didn't even know it. And he raised children like a good father. His children clearly love him because he's there for them. And and when I say putting down roots, he is a part of his town. He is that town, because you see it when you go to the alternate future. Without him, Bedford Falls does not exist.
Without him. Everyone's lives suck.
Yeah.
Like, it's not just the people in the town, though. They don't talk about it as much as I would like them to, but his brother influenced more lives than Jimmy did across the entire world. How many lives he saved in the war? Those lives were gone if Jimmy wasn't there to pull him out of the river as a kid. There's just endless ripples, and that's a heartfelt message for everyone. It's like, yeah, you might not realize the ripples you've made in everyone around you, but you have, and there's been a positive influence by your
realized
existence.
one horrible ripple I made. I gave Jeremy a chance on live stream for the first time, and I regret that every minute of the day.
Yeah, that might have been a mistake.
That's my fault. Yeah, we kind of wish that didn't happen.
But
Merry Christmas, Jeremy, you fat bastard.
What do you think of some people's interpretation of the film that the entire bit with Clarence and pretty much the entire film was inside of George's head? That it was like his life was flashing before his eyes at the end, and he hallucinated the whole thing?
There's one simple response to that. The opening to the goddamn movie.
No, that's what I mean. His life's flashing before his eyes, and he hallucinated.
No. I mean, you see a conversation between Clarence, Joseph, and God.
Yeah, he hallucinated those.
No.
Thank you.
No, because that's the start of the movie. And how can it be a hallucination if you hear everybody saying their prayers for him in the opening of the movie? That he doesn't know everybody's praying for him. That's a part of it.
Thank you.
No. See, this is the problem with somebody who sniffs their own goddamn farts and decides that they know a lot about a piece of cinema just because they went to a goddamn class or took a fucking course. Oh, I'm going to find new insight to a classic so I could claim fame on this. No, he's not. It's not a hallucination. And
this isn't a Nolan film.
If you buy into that,
or Shyamalan,
both work. Both work. If you buy into that theory, it completely negates the major themes we just talked about of faith, religion, family, connecting to your community. It removes all those themes if you buy into that, and there's no damn way they would do that to completely negate the entire theme of the themes of the movie. No.
Oh,
no.
100%. That ruins the entire thing. Just like for me, the whole idea of the company being behind the Nostromos being there in Alien. Same feeling. That's it. Now you understand exactly how I felt.
Piece of evidence. If it's a hallucination, where does the Tom Sawyer book come from at the end? Mary sees the signature from Clarence in there. Where did that come from if it's a hallucination? What did he do? Did he have time during his breakdown to do it himself? I'm having my nervous
mental breakdown. You never know what he did.
We saw every moment of his mental breakdown.
Okay, we saw from his perspective what he was hallucinating.
Screw that. No. Bullshit. And I hear, all right, I'm gonna, all right, how's this? All right. Your controversial take. The husband of the teacher that he chews out over the phone, was he right to punch him in the face?
Yeah.
No.
I think he was. George needed that. George,
I don't think. No. Here's the thing. She let that little girl go home without her coat on. It's cold. That's Kara. Listen, I will tell this story off camera because it's a personal story. From personal experience with my family, a carelessness of a teacher like that can cause a serious thing. So no, I don't think he was wrong. Accountability. I'll tell you that off camera because I don't want to bring down the mood. But no, I think he was right because it's this little girl. She was. I don't think I was right to punch him in the face. I don't think it was right. I mean, I don't think
George took it way too far. Like being upset with her, absolutely, but he takes it really far.
Granted, he's breaking down at that point, but I don't think it's a punch. I don't think that kind of, because it's not like he attacked the man's wife. It's not like he went after her. Still, all right. I'm with George on that one. Again, I'll explain why.
I think George at the end doesn't disagree with the man after he's come back from his mental breakdown.
I have not been damaged. No, it's a serious. It's actually a serious story. I don't want to talk about it on this stream, but it's no. I don't think he was right because, and I love that scene because then you see the instance of everybody rallies around George. Get him out of here, Martinez. Like, get him out of my bar. He never comes back in here again. He's my best friend. That's an interesting moment for me there. Martini considers George his best friend, but I don't think George would consider Martini his best friend. He's my best friend. You don't live here. You don't come in here no more. He's my best friend. Just little moments like that. I do appreciate in the movie.
And so, of course, this is an old movie, right?
Yes.
There's going to be woke people who claim it's racist, sexist, all the great things.
We were talking about the housekeeper.
Oh, well, that too. But I've heard people say that the Martini family is actually the Martinez family, and he's making fun of them for being Hispanic.
They're Italian! No, you know why
they're black and white. They're diverse with accents. They're Mexican.
It's Italian. You know why it's also Italian? One, because goddamn, that's Italian back then. That's how they played it. But also, there's a point in the movie where Potter's executive dude is working with him. He uses an Italian racial slur at one point, describing the Italians who are inhabiting all the homes in Bailey Park. They throw out an Italian racial slur in there. It's a soft one, but they throw it out there saying he's giving homes to all these Italians, basically.
Oh, yeah, I laughed at that one. It's like, they're Italian, right? And their argument was, well, they couldn't say it was actually Mexicans, but they're diverse with accents. Mexican. I know, that's the thing with these people, is these woke people think if you have an accent and you're not completely white, you're Mexican.
First of all, this is the Northeast. This is where's Bedford Falls? I forget.
It's like Connecticut, I'd guess.
Is it?
Yeah, I'd say New England.
Because they're not that far from New York City. Because they talk about how quick it is to get there. Yeah, this is 1946. The Mexicans were not migrating to the tri-state area. They were not migrating to the Northeast. and that area is heavily European from the 20s on when immigration happened.
You just sounded very racist to me, honestly.
Well,
You're just sounding
if accurate history is racist, then I'm the biggest racist here in the world. Okay?
Oh, that's getting clipped. Just that last part.
Hey. Both sides of my family came in that way at the beginning of last century. That's how they got here.
Through Ellis Island?
Yes. Yeah.
That's awesome.
I'm only third generation American. I mean my biological dad's side from Northern Italy, they came over. My mom's side from what is now Ukraine, but we always said Russian, and they came from there. And so my mom was first. Technically, I'm second generation because my mom's. What she should be second generation because she was born here.
Okay, then you'd be second generation.
So I'm only second generation.
I think.
Yeah.
I don't know how it works. I mean, you count the original.
Well, they came here. We'll say I'm second. We'll say second generation. I'm only second generation American.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I'd like to make sure there's a third generation one day. I still hope to do that, but so I've.
Well, keep going with Rachel Zegler. It'll happen someday, buddy.
Dude, do you ever want me to get an erection again? Don't mention her. That's terrible. Terrible.
Do you want her to star in the remake? Play a gender swapped George Bailey? Georgina Bailey?
Stop.
Georgia?
Stop. Shame on you. Shame on you. Anyway, all right. Anyway. What I love about this, again, as I mentioned, is George's progression. He doesn't realize that he's so impactful, and he doesn't realize that he is a hero. Because that's one of the great that's I don't think you would even realize that some of you realize that this is a hero story, and he's the best kind of hero. The hero who isn't even trying to be your hero.
Doesn't even realize he's a hero.
Yeah, he's just being the empathetic dude. He's being the kind man. He's being the good father, the good husband, the good, the voice of the voiceless. He's the one who's championing the people who can't stand up to Potter, and it all just fell in his lap. He didn't want it, and that's what makes a hero.
Mm-hmm.
The guy who just does it because it's in front of him, not because he wants to, not because he's seeking fame or glory, but because it's the right thing to do, and he doesn't turn away from it. How many times this movie does something happen, and George goes forward where nobody else does, and instead of turning away? That's a hero, and I think that's maybe something that's not discussed enough. Maybe when we talk about this movie, is that it's a hero's journey, a hero's story, and that's why he's such a good hero. And he's got a good villain. Let's talk about Potter. Potter is your classic Scrooge-esque villain who doesn't get redeemed, and that's why I like it as a villain.
Russell T. Davies would have a problem with this movie because it associates disability with evil.
You know, RTD. I'm not going to say that. You might want to do it. RTD.
You can't spell retard without RTD.
Oh, that's a good one.
That's not mine. That's Gary's.
Well, Gary wins an award. Gary wins a cookie for that one. But that's a good villain, because let's go to the whole instigating thing that sets up the third act. Retard uncle. Again, why are you letting this man handle $8,000 at that moment? I don't know. He's got it right. Here's one of the moments of the movie that kind of falls apart for me, though. I mean, maybe because the uncle is a complete and total retard. I'm gonna say it again, retard. Maybe because he's a complete and total retard. He had the money right there. He was counting it in the bank. How can he forget?
They set that up through the entire movie, though. Like, he missed his nephew's wedding because he forgot about it.
Okay.
Yeah, no, that from his very first scene, they showed him like with the strings on his fingers, forgetting
You're
stuff.
right. You're right.
He
But
forgot his hat was on his head. He's always been like that. And
well, he was drunk. He was drunk in that moment.
That was
That's
all
a
right.
drunky,
That
that's
one's
a drunky
okay.
joke.
But like you mentioned a moment ago, George is a hero, and his superpower is empathy. But it's also his greatest weakness, because if he didn't have empathy to the degree he did, he wouldn't trust his uncle. He wouldn't give his uncle a job, and that was ultimately what seemed like his downfall, is being too empathetic to his uncle, who had serious problems and should not have been trusted with anything whatsoever.
No. You trust him with shining your shoes. That's what you trust him with. Yeah. So the uncle is counting the money. He's written it all down, but then he decides to go basically taunt Potter over their victory over him at this point, and he folds the money inside a newspaper. It was a newspaper because it was Harry's coming home party. Excuse me, coming home party, and he was like, "Oh, look, here's Harry coming home. How do you like them Baileys now, Potter?" Potter going, "Leave me alone." Problem is, he folded the money inside the newspaper, and then Potter finds the money, realizes what's going on because he has his man wheel him back to the door so he can peek through it and see retard out there looking for the money after he's been told where is it. And then he's good. And Potter doesn't have a turnaround, no face turn.
Nope.
Total heel.
And no comeuppance either. He doesn't lose. He doesn't get defeated, really. Like, yeah, he doesn't win, but he's not imprisoned. He doesn't lose anything. He just doesn't win.
Because, yeah, nobody knows he did.
Well, true, but I mean, like, even the villains who don't learn anything, even villains who don't have a turn, most of them are punished. He's punished in no way, shape, or form. And it's going to be a constant struggle. The end of this movie is not the end of the struggle between the Baileys and the Potters. That's going to go on for the rest of Potter's life, which it's a miracle that man lasted as long as he did.
One of my few questions of this movie. Some people, I feel like, should have died off just age-wise at this time of that era.
The way I look at it is the same way that they're trying to say that Jimmy Stewart is 22 when we first see him.
Well, they do a good job of masking it, and then they age a little bit more.
I don't think they do as good of a job as they should, considering the time skip.
The
black and white does make it difficult, but I think if we're going to accept Jimmy Stewart, I'm assuming that they're hoping that we'll accept the same thing for Potter, the same thing for his dad, the same thing for everything else.
Well, Potter had to be at least in his 50s at the start of the movie. At least, I would say.
Maybe.
He's got to be in his 80s though by the end of the movie, and that I guess when you don't walk around a lot, I guess that kind of gives you not so much strain on your body. I'm ableist. Go fuck yourself.
The twist is he's actually Davros just early on. That life support chair's just been made. It's an early model. He hasn't made the Daleks yet.
Yeah.
Bailey's keeping the Daleks creation at bay. Potter just needs a little bit more money to fund the Dalek research.
But I listen. The chat's talking about it. And you're right that he doesn't necessarily lose, and the fact that he just doesn't win. But you know what? I think that would take away from the point of the movie, though. If you have to follow through and say, "Oh, look, the bad guy gets his comeuppance," no, because that's not reality.
Well, that's not the point. Just like you're saying, it's about seeing the good in what you have. It's not about achieving something. It's not about winning. It's about, hey, you've got a really good thing. You got to appreciate what you have. It has value.
And I think if you understand the meaning of the movie, Potter loses because all he has is the dude to push him around his wheelchair. That's all he's got. He's got nothing. He's empty.
Potter loses in the third film.
The third movie, Revenge of the Bailey. I don't know.
No, I think that's a Harry Potter reference. Harry Potter, Prisoner of Azkaban, kind of loses at the end of Azkaban.
I don't know. I think wasn't Goblet of Fire the third one?
No, that's 4.
4? Oh, what the hell do I know?
Yeah, it's Philosopher's Stone, Chamber Secrets, Prisoner of Azkaban, then Goblet of Fire.
All right, whatever. Leave me alone. I'm editing But I would say that the victory, to me, the victory is total because nothing Potter could do would stop George, because George was always going to win, because George is Bedford Falls. And Bedford Falls will be there for George as they show up at the end there. And Potter will always be just Potter, because the alternate reality showed us Pottersville, he'll never achieve it. And when he dies, where's his money's going to go? Nowhere. It's just going to get, probably go to the state is what it will go to, because he doesn't have any heirs and he's not going to leave it to anybody. He's not the kind of guy, he's not the kind of dude who's going to leave his money to anything. So his ambitions will forever fail, because look what happened too. Hee-haw, man. Hee-haw. He gives George a $25,000 loan right there if he needed it. I mean, that's wow.
That's a lot of money.
That's a lot of money back then, man. That's a lot of money. So George, I would say George's victory is complete, because he realizes that he has everything. And he is, as I say, you are the richest. When Harry says, was it Harry says it? You are the richest man in town. Because he's got, it's not, the money is there, and the business will continue on, and the town will grow under his guidance. But he's got everything that does matter in life.
Well, and I when you mentioned that, I've never thought of it that way, and yeah, that does make sense. Is with people like Potter, at least in other stories, a big part is legacy, and what's better legacy than having something named after him? So Potterville is him winning, and if he doesn't get Potterville,
he'll be forgotten, because once he's gone, once
there's
Potter
nothing
is
to live on.
Once he dies in his chair, because he's in a wheelchair. Once he dies in his chair,
ableist.
Yeah, damn straight. He will then, no one will remember him fondly. He will have because remember, he states, you own this part, but I own everything else. But you have no legacy to pass it on to. And when you're gone, no one's gonna, all that's gonna move to somebody else, and it's not you anymore. Your name will not be on anything. But Bailey Park will be there forever. Bedford Falls will continue on as just Bedford Falls because of George Bailey. So,
and George is going to live on in his children.
Yeah. He has 4 kids. He was busy.
And they skipped through most of it. It's like, yep, they had a son, and oh, damn, there's 3 more.
Yeah. There's a lot of celebrating going on.
Well, and we've talked about it a couple times, where this movie really trusts its audience. There's not a whole lot of exposition. In a modern film, I wish they would have built up the relationship between his kids a little bit more to lead up into the final.
They spent so much time with the other stuff, there was no time for that left.
What I'm going for is, because of Jimmy Stewart's performance, we don't necessarily need that. We get the couple scenes, and that's all we really need. And so it's Jimmy Stewart is just such a talented actor that he excuses the normal character building that I would normally expect.
And I want to look at one. I because I was late today. I want to look something up, Ernie. Or I got to look this up real quick, because there's a couple of things in here. Yep, I was right. I knew it. Okay, I just double checked it. As we close out here, there's no soundtrack to talk about. It's just classic Christmas songs and stuff like that. It is what it is. I want to have 2 more discussions, and then we're going to close it out. First of all, just to play devil's advocate, I mentioned it earlier. Is this a Christmas movie? Lots of times, people who say Die Hard isn't a Christmas movie will say, you could take this out, it all still works with that. The Christmas doesn't really come into effect until the final act here. And even then, the events are not because of Christmas. It's just happening on Christmas, kid. So, is it a Christmas movie?
Yes, absolutely. Because being at Christmas, being able to take Christmas out or not, is not a defining part of the definition.
I know.
So
Go ahead.
So yeah, it's got a lot of great values. It makes people think about Christmas. People watch it at Christmas, and it's a feel good movie. There's no clear cut definition of a Christmas movie. So if people want it to be a Christmas movie, it is. I think that's as simple as the definition needs to be. Like Rocky Four, I would never have once called it a Christmas movie in my entire life. But you mentioned you considered it or used to consider it a Christmas movie, and I didn't argue with it. I thought it was
The
completely
director's
valid.
cut ruined that. The director's cut ruined it for me, though. It took out all the Christmas elements, except for the fact that the fight happens on Christmas Day, and they don't even really show anything Christmassy in it. So that whole theory of mine, I've taken that L. I take that L. I will take that L. But I agree with you. If something happens on Christmas, if it has Christmas elements in it, if it's woven into it, if they're singing the songs, even though they're singing the New Year's song at the end too, they're singing the songs. If someone's yelling Merry Christmas because they're happy it's that time of year and they're celebrating the moment, it's a Christmas movie. Also, this movie is shown on Christmas all the damn time, every year.
Oh, it's in theaters here in Orlando right now.
Really? Wow. Okay. So it is a Christmas movie, and I only brought this up because I wanted to just get the response out there of if you take out the elements, argument, this and that. But yeah, it's a Christmas movie.
Yeah, if this is a Christmas movie, Die Hard's also a Christmas movie.
And it is a miracle at the end. It's a Christmas miracle that he has the chance to step out of himself and understand the impact he has on life. And then when the rest of the town comes through for him, because without him, their lives are all shit. It's that simple. One other thing I realized when I was watching this, for maybe the first time, because again, as I mentioned earlier, I've never cleanly watched this movie. It's always been bits and pieces or picking up certain points. I realized it when I was watching, and I just double checked it. The origin of Bert and Ernie. Sesame Street, Bert and Ernie. This is the origin because Bert the cop and Ernie the taxi driver. And it hit me when he's in the alternate reality and he goes, Bert, Ernie. And I looked at them and realized, oh shit, don't tell me it's the origin of Bert and Ernie. And yes, it is. Although their names are commonly believed to have been drawn from those two. Oh no. Okay. Screw that. All right. So this says no, but I say it is.
I could see it. Those two were really funny, especially when they were setting up the fake honeymoon at the house when he came over. I love that scene, and there's some good comedy between the two of them. Like the shorter one
say no.
kisses the cop on the forehead.
Yeah. They say no here, but I say yes. I'm gonna go with yes. And also another joke. You ever see the Adventures of Ford Fairlane?
I haven't.
Oh, we're gonna have to watch it. That's Andrew Dice Clay, man. That is pure dice. At one point, there's a character in it called Zuzu's Pedals. She's called Zuzu Pedals and Zuzu's Pedals. So this movie has iconic stuff that is littered throughout all kinds of. Every time a bell rings, an angel gets its wings. We're making up all. We make that joke. It's a meme now, and we can turn it to all kinds of fun jokes. It's got all kinds of iconography throughout history. It's a classic. It's wonderful because it's a wonderful life. That said, Jed, it's your week. You get to score it first.
Well, I absolutely adore this film. I think it's incredibly well written with dialogue that makes it easy to understand a lot of the financial aspects of it. That's something we haven't talked about.
Yeah.
I am not an accountant. I'm not someone who is well versed in taxes, especially of the era, but the film does it in a way that's completely organic. It lets us know everything we need to know in a way that makes sense, is organic, and feels authentic. And it just overall, I think it's an incredibly well-written movie. There are some elements that I think are a little too cheesy, like the friend, the hee-honk guy.
That's the era.
That is a bit of the era, but there are a few things that I don't think are 100%. Some of the performances, like I think his brother, the actor, except for his first scene when they're at the dining hall all together as a family, that scene's really good with him. But his brother's other scenes, I really don't see much out of him. He doesn't really stand out to me. Most of the other supporting cast does, but there's going to be a few duds. So I have to give this a 9 out of 10.
Oh wow. Wow. Okay. This is a first. You scored it higher than I have. Because, as I said, this movie is not one of my go-to Christmas movies. And as I said, I feel at certain points it does drag on, but the power of Jimmy Stewart as an actor, the power of the themes, and the simple fact that by the end of that final scene, the final moments, the last 10, 15 minutes, it fills me with that holiday spirit, that joy, puts a smile on your face. I'm going to give it a higher score than I originally intended. 8 out of 10 for me. Very rare that Jed scores higher than I do.
It's very rare.
Very rare. So, but again, and also because objectively, you cannot deny everything that this movie represents. Its significance, its importance to culture, to movie history, to cinema history. You can't deny any of it, and you can't deny that it is just a movie that warms your heart. It does the job. It makes you feel good, and it embodies that Christmas spirit that we should have, and that's one of the things I do love about this time of year. I love to share the Christmas spirit. Be a little bit better. Be a little bit nicer. Give some people down, unless you're Dermy. Dermy can go to hell. Okay, hey, we got to bash Dermy a little bit. You guys know the drill. Anyway, all right, guys. Thanks, everybody. Merry Christmas. If you're watching this in current real time, no episode next week. It's Christmas weekend. We're taking the week off. We will be back the following weekend, right around New Year's, for another one. It's my choice. Haven't chosen it yet. I have to shift my movie around. If we were going to go next week, I had one in mind, but now we're going to shift it around. I've got to decide what we're going to do. But until then, guys, thanks. If you guys had a good time, hit that like button, watching live or on the replay. And until then, everybody, have a Merry Christmas wherever you may be.
Chevron 1, coded.
For my ally is the Force, and the powerful ally it is. Life creates it, makes it grow.
You failed, Your Highness. I am a Jedi, like my father before me.
Cry hammer, and let's set the dogs of war.
Chevron 2 is coded.
Conan, what is best in life? Crush your enemies, see them driven before you, to hear the lamentation of the women.
It's all in the reflexes.
I'll also say that you're heavy into martial arts, Tai Chi and all that killer stuff.
I suppose we have to register you as a lethal weapon.
Chevron 3 encoded.
And somebody ought to belt you in the mouth. But I won't. The hell I will.
Chevron 4 encoded.
Do you expect me to talk? No, Mr. Bond, I expect you to die.
Chevron 5 encoded.
You take the blue pill. The story ends. You wake up in your bed and believe whatever you want to. You take the red pill. You stay in Wonderland. And I show you how deep the rabbit hole goes.
Chevron 6 encoded.
Not for while you can, lump boy.
Great Scott.
Back off, man. I'm a scientist.
You shall not pass!
I thought I'd die fighting side by side with an elf.
What about side by side with a friend?
A day may come when the courage of men fails, when we forsake our friends and break all bonds of fellowship. But it is not this day.
Chevron 7 is blocked.